I will be talking about extending the grazing season through the summer slump. So the summer slump period is typically in that July, August timeframe, and hot, dry weather. Most of our cool season grasses go dormant or stop growing during that time period. So the foundation, as both Marta and Jason have said, the foundation for good pasture management is rotation. We don't want to be grazing everything down to the nub. So rotational grazing will help us get through a relatively short summer slump with not much of a hiccup at all. And set stocking will exacerbate a summer slump period, even if it's a short summer slump period. Selecting varieties as you're renovating pastures, based more on your soil type, but selecting varieties that will continue to grow through that hot, dry period better than others will help. So using orchard grass, meadow fescues, they have to be palatable also to the cattle. And putting legumes in, alfalfa and clover, into your pasture mix will help get you through that summer slump also. So with that in mind, another option are summer annuals. So we think of the warm season annuals, the sorghums, and for the lack of time we have here, I'm going to bunch sorghum sudan grass, and the sorghums, forage sorghum and grain sorghum, all under the umbrella of sorghums. So the sorghums are good warm season, they're drought tolerant, and they have a waxy leaf and a very fibrous root structure, which helps get them through the dry period. But we need to be careful grazing these because they contain prussic acid. And when the plants are damaged, two compounds combine and make prussic acid, which can poison the cattle. And that prussic acid is more prevalent in the young growth, under 24 inches, new buds, regrowing, and that sort of thing. So we need to rotationally graze the sorghums for sure. And they also regrow from the lower part of the stem, from axil buds. So we don't want to graze these right down to the ground. Also, if we're in a drought situation, we can have some nitrate issues with any annual grass, actually, even corn, if we drill corn and graze that as a summer annual. So we want to leave that bottom 8 inches or so of the stem so that we're not getting the nitrate poisoning issues. Now, another summer annual we can use are the millets, and the millets grow very similar to the sorghums. And so the millets and the sorghums, we want to plant those when our soil temperature is definitely over 60 degrees, preferably about 70 degrees. So that's a June time frame for planting these. So the millets are an annual grass. They're used for grain in a lot of parts of the world, and they'll show up in some of our bird seed mixes and stuff. They grow this out west for that purpose. So similar grazing, we don't want to graze them right down to the ground or they're not going to grow back. Also, nitrates can be an issue. And we can mix some annual legumes in, most notably soybeans or cowpeas. Cowpeas are a warm season annual, similar in growth to soybeans. And we can mix those in with either the sorghums or the millets and graze those. We may not get as much regrowth from soybean or cowpea as we would from the grasses, the millets and sorghums. So just keep that in mind. The soybean and cowpea tend to be kind of a one and done for grazing. But then that will increase the protein content of the grazed forage if we have those in there. And so those are some of our options. There's also cocktail mixes that you can get from seed companies. Be sure to buy from a reputable company and be sure to talk with your seed salesperson of what you've got, your soil type, what your goals are, what you're trying to accomplish by planting some of these Warm season annuals or cocktail mixes. Some of the cocktail mixes might be a combination of cool season and warm season species, which, may be good. It'll give you a hedge depending on, for both kinds of seasons, warm and dry or cool and wet or something in between. But if you're strictly trying to get through a hot, dry summer slump, particularly if you're on sandier soils, then you're going to want to, stay towards the warm season grasses. We can also graze alfalfa. You're definitely going to want to graze in a managed grazing situation so that the cattle are forced to graze not just the tender tops, but down the plant further and get more fiber into them, especially if it's a pure alfalfa field. Now, alfalfa grass field, maybe you've taken first cutting off of that field and you can go in there and graze that. That might be part of your plan, or it may be a field that's kind of petering out at the end of its life as an alfalfa field. That can be an excellent source of forage to get you through a summer slump. Also, nitrogen fertilization for your pastures will help depending on your goals. And so for bluegrass pasture, more of a native, kind of take what you've got type situation, you'd want to be down around 80 pounds of nitrogen. You can split that with a late to mid spring application and then maybe a August application, depending on what your goals are. If you want to keep that for a stockpiling, then you're definitely going to want to put on some fertilizer late summer, like Jason's data showed. So that finishes my presentation.